Just over a year ago in Yemen, a U.S. drone operated by the CIA unleashed a Hellfire missile, killing one of the most wanted terrorists in the world, Anwar Al Awlaki. The American-born cleric had been waging holy war against his own country. Because he was a U.S. citizen, it was one of the most controversial drone strikes in the campaign against Al-Qaeda. To this day, the question of how the CIA zeroed in on Awlaki in that distant desert land remains a mystery. Some of that will be answered tonight, and you'll learn how an unlikely Danish spy named Morten Storm managed to get inside Awlaki's world and become one of his most trusted friends, and how, Storm says, he helped lead that fatal missile to its target.
The story will continue in a moment.
As you send us your bombs, we will send you ours.
By the time of his death, Anwar Al Awlaki was at the top of the U.S. terrorist kill list. The Muslim cleric had become notorious for his fiery internet sermons that incited attacks against America.
That jihad against America is binding upon myself just as it is binding on every other able Muslim.
Awlaki had plotted with the underwear bomber Umar Abdul Muttalib, and he inspired Nidal Hassan's shooting rampage at Fort Hood, Texas, that left 13 dead. He had become the operational leader of Al-Qaeda in Yemen and was in the midst of planning more attacks. Morten Storm was one of the few people Awlaki trusted. What he didn't know was that Storm had become a double agent, working for Danish intelligence and their partners, the CIA, who wanted Awlaki dead.
At that moment now, anyone needs to die by any means. He needs to be stopped.
Even though he was your friend?
He was not my friend. He was a person I needed to get close to stop his evil in him.
How dangerous do you think he was?
Very dangerous.
The two first met in Yemen in 2006, when Storm, a Muslim convert from Denmark, was as radical as Awlaki. What did you think of him first time you met him?
Very kind person. You know, his character was what do you call a joyful character.
Did you two get on well from the beginning?
No, from the very first minute.
And so you became friends?
Yes. I liked him because of his views of jihad, because that was my views as well.
Storm's path to extremism began in prison when he converted to Islam at 21, a troubled kid with a violent past who'd never found his place in the sleepy Danish town where he grew up. What would people have said about you at that time? How would they have described you?
My reputation as a young teenager, I could punch very hard. I used to knock out a full-grown man with one punch, and I was known for that.
He says Islam offered forgiveness and comfort in ritual, a refuge for a young man who feared his life was going nowhere.
I felt good about it, praying, and as if I was cleaned. My sins have left me.
It freed you from your past.
It did, yeah, and that's what I needed.
He moved to Yemen, learned Arabic, took an Arabic name, Murad, and a Muslim wife with whom he had 3 children. By 9/11, he was immersed in radical Islam and even named his son after Osama bin Laden. Why would you do that?
Because he was born in just after 9/11, and Osama bin Laden was a hero. He was a Muslim soldier who stood up against the big Satan of America.
You know, many Americans listening to that will be offended.
Well, I'm telling the truth.
But over the years, Storm began to have doubts about his faith. As dramatic as his original conversion was, so was his break with Islam. This is how he explains it.
I typed on my keyboard, on my laptop, contradictions in the Quran. That's the first time I ever done that. What I believed in for those 10 years suddenly was just ripped away from me. I discovered that it was all fake. I made a decision not to be Muslim.
You can't go from believing all of this for 10 years to instantly not
know-
believing any of it,
You know
right?
what? It can happen. That can actually happen. It was a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster.
Because you were giving up everything.
Yes, of course.
So you made a decision. You called Danish intelligence.
I called Danish intelligence.
Without saying why, Storm arranged to meet Danish agents at a hotel in Copenhagen. He was well known to them as a hardcore extremist, and they'd been tracking him for years.
So they say, oh, well, Murad, they say, because that was my Muslim name. What would you like to eat? Would you like to have fish or vegetarian food? So I said, no. I said, I want something with bacon, pork, I said, and I want a beer. And they were like, in disbelief, looking at each other. I said, I'm no longer Muslim, and I want to fight this terrorist.
Storm now transformed into a double agent. He says one of the most important targets he was given by the CIA was his old friend Awlaki, an assignment that took him deep into the Yemeni desert to meet the Al-Qaeda leader.
2 guys came out with the AKs, and I was like, you know, if they know anything about me, I'm dead now.
Inside, Storm says, Awlaki was sitting in the midst of some 30 heavily armed mujahideen, or holy warriors.
When he stood up, he said, Assalamu alaikum, akhi. You're like, peace be upon you, my brother, he said. And he walked up, he gave me a hug, and I was like,
At that meeting, Storm told us, Awlaki drew him into his small circle of confidants and gave him the encryption keys to his secure communications network, which he showed us. Using couriers, they would now send each other flash drives with encrypted emails, photos, and videos. Awlaki asked Storm to recruit followers and raise money for him. And he wanted something else.
He asked me if I knew any sisters who might be interested in marrying him.
And you, of course, said...
Yeah.
Storm says the CIA saw Awlaki's request for a bride as an opening, a way to get closer to the elusive terrorist. And they eagerly signed on to a plan to find Awlaki a new wife. Storm went on Facebook, of all places, and tried to connect with Awlaki's supporters.
I had no one except for a woman contacting me, saying, do you know Sheikh Anwar? I said, yeah. And then that was Amina.
Amina, a 32-year-old Croatian whose real name is Irena Horek, had recently converted to Islam. She wrote to Storm that she wanted to marry Awlaki. To prove to her that he really knew the Al-Qaeda leader, Storm had Awlaki send him this video, which he gave to us.
This recording is done specifically for Sister Amina at her request. And the brother who's carrying this recording is a trustworthy brother.
When he says the brother who's carrying this video is a trustworthy brother, that's you.
That's me.
Awlaki, who already had 2 wives, wanted to see his bride-to-be.
If you could also do a recorded message and send it over, that would be great.
Storm made 2 videos of Amina, which have never been broadcast before. Here she is in the first.
Brother, it's me, Amina. I just taped this just to see that you can see how I look.
And then this, a second, more revealing video of her.
Brother, this is me without the headscarf, so you can see my hair. I described it to you before. So now you see me without it, and I hope you will be pleased with it.
When we looked into Amina's past, we could find nothing to explain why this seemingly ordinary woman, who was once a champion runner and an advocate for the disabled, suddenly abandoned everything she knew and committed her life to a terrorist leader. By June 2010, she was living in Yemen in the arms of her new husband, Anwar Al Awlaki. Why was the CIA in favor of you arranging this marriage?
She would be a live bait to Anwar, without a doubt.
Storm says the CIA hoped Amina would lead them right to Awlaki, and they rewarded him with a bonus, $250,000. He was so excited he took this photograph of the briefcase, packed with $100 bills. But once Amina got to Yemen, Storm believes the CIA lost track of her and Awlaki. After he'd been missing for months, CIA, US intelligence had no idea where he was.
No.
And you found him in 4 weeks.
That's correct.
Awlaki, who still had no idea Storm had turned against him, sent a courier to him with a shopping list. It included bomb-making supplies. Storm told us he left some of the harmless items on the list with a middleman and promised to deliver the rest later. He then arranged with Awlaki for a pickup by a courier and reported back to his handlers in Denmark.
I didn't think any more about that.
Until?
Well, until I read that Anwar was killed and I read how they tracked him down, and that was my mission.
They tracked him down through a courier?
Yeah.
Storm read a newspaper report that quoted unnamed US intelligence officials as saying they tracked Awlaki through a young courier, a description that matched the courier his middleman said had picked up the items he left for Awlaki. Is there any doubt in your mind at all that it was your mission
No.
that led to Awlaki's death?
No. There is no doubt.
What did you think when you heard that Anwar Al Awlaki was dead?
It was a lot of enjoyment. I'd say because it's good he died anyway. It is good.
He says his joy turned to anger when he realized the CIA was not going to give him any credit or reward money for helping to kill Awlaki. Instead, he learned from his Danish spy masters that the CIA denied it was his intelligence that led to the hit and claimed they had a parallel operation. Furious, he went to confront his CIA handler at a seaside hotel in Denmark. In the hotel lobby, moments before the meeting, Storm switched on his phone's video recorder and slipped it into his pocket. He gave us that recording, and you can hear Storm challenging the man he claims is a CIA officer, known to him as Michael.
The Americans have failed in every single attempt to arrest or kill Anwar Al Awlaki, except when we went in. We just want gratitude from your government.
The American calmly tried to reassure him.
This whole thing was a team effort, of which you played the highest role. Okay, and it's because of that that there are a lot of people in my government. Now,
Obama.
I'm talking about the President of the United States. Okay, no, so President Nancy done in life. He knows about your work.
Yeah.
Okay, and for that, we are thankful.
Morton Storm wasn't satisfied, and it was after that meeting that he decided to go public, which is why he spoke to us. We asked the CIA and Danish intelligence for comment, but they both declined. By the time we met Storm at a remote location in the Danish countryside last month, Awlaki's followers had vowed revenge. So you're going to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder?
Yeah. If I try to hide every day and be scared, they have won.
Storm is working on a new identity for himself and his family. So what are you going to do?
I take one day at a time.
Is this what your life will be now?
It's going to be, if it's going to be short or long, I don't know, but I don't regret anything.